We're nothing more than a gene machine. We're just stellar matter. The only difference between us and a pebble is that the pebble doesn't think it's important. We think we are. The pebble has no self-consciousness. We have self-consciousness. Human worth is dependent, ironically, upon the existence of a God creator of us. Otherwise, we are nothing in terms of meaning and in terms of specialness. We're not so special. We think we're special, but we're deluding ourselves. But that specialness came from being created in God's image. We are losing freedom. Freedom is a Judeo-Christian value. On the Liberty Bell, the iconic symbol of the United States of America, there's only one thing written aside from the company that made the bell. One thing, a verse from the Torah, the first 5 books of the Hebrew Bible. In Leviticus, which nobody knows today, or unless they're religious. They knew their Bible, the founders of America, because that was their book. That was Abraham Lincoln's book. He very rarely went to church, but his tome of reference was the Bible. On that bell, on the Liberty Bell, is this verse, "And you shall proclaim liberty throughout the land unto all its inhabitants." Leviticus chapter 25. The United States, the freest country in the history of the world, the country to which France gave the Statue of Liberty, didn't give it to itself, didn't give it to another country, gave it to America. That country was founded on the belief that God wants us to be free. That's why the Exodus, the Jews leaving Egypt and slavery, was so central to American history. Thomas Jefferson and Benjamin Franklin were not believers in the Christian Trinity. They were cultural Christians, but they were deep admirers of the Bible, which was the basis of their values. They made a design for the Great Seal of the United States of America, and it was the Jews leaving Egypt, because they said, like the Jews left Egypt, we left Europe. There was a complete identification with this yearning for freedom, which, by the way, was quintessentially American. Human beings do not yearn to be free. That is a myth. Human beings yearn to be taken care of, which is the opposite of freedom. Even in the Bible, when the Jews got out of Egypt, within months they were yelling, "We want to go back. The food was better." Yeah, they preferred good food as slaves to manna in the desert. Oh, it was better food back there. So what if we were slaves? By the way, that trade is made often. You give me goodies, government, and I'll give you my freedom. Most people don't yearn to be free. Judeo-Christian values yearn for freedom. The Bible yearns for freedom. And we have seen that during the lockdowns. The people who most accepted the draconian lockdowns were the most secular of the regimes or administrations or governments of the country, like New Zealand and Australia and various states in the United States. The more religious the state, the more it rebelled against the truly absurd lockdowns that took place that crushed children and crushed small businesses and crushed people's hopes. Freedom is another victim of the increasingly secular age. And you know why? Because the bigger the government, the smaller the God. Or if you will, the smaller God is, the bigger the government is. Again, I'm talking about in the Western world. The founders of the United States, the people who most believed in small government because they so believed in big freedom, were the people who most believed that God is the author of our rights. God is the author of freedom. You get rid of God, I promise you, you will get rid of freedom. We are living through that right now. The consequences of secularism are huge and disastrous. So let me put it this way. In the West, the bigger the God, the smaller the state, The bigger the state, the smaller the God. If you love freedom, you cannot love the big state. The bigger the state, the less the freedom. That's a given. This shouldn't even be debatable. If you give a handful of people more and more and more power, you have less freedom. It's amazing that one would have to make this argument. It should be so self-evident. And what ensures a smaller government is when people believe that there is a God to whom they are accountable. Because if you're not accountable to God for your behavior, then you will have to be accountable to people for your behavior, to the state. So the bigger the God, the smaller the state, the more the freedom. That was the founding principle. Big God, little state. It's not a theocracy. There's nothing to do with theocracy. Zero. It has to do with how people live their lives. In Washington's farewell address, he spoke about the religious foundations for a moral society. All the founders did. The chaos that we're seeing is a result of secularism. But people so believe in secularism, you are so taught from the earliest age that religion is for dummies, that the truly intelligent person is just definitionally secular. Who needs this bearded man in the sky? I know it because I get all this email, and I hear that so often.